Okay. Let me start this video off by saying I love the MCU and I do really like Tom Holland as Spider-Man. In fact, Far From Home is one of my favorite Spider-Man movies. But there are a couple phrases that have grown popular on the internet lately that have just really irked me.
Everything. Spandex.
Tom Holland is the most comic book accurate Spider-Man yet. Tobey Maguire was a great Peter Parker, but not a great Spider-Man. Andrew Garfield was a great Spider-Man, but not a great Peter Parker. Tom Holland is great at both.
I don't know how else to say this, but this is just not true.
In spite of everything you've done for them, eventually they will hate you. Why bother?
In order to break this down, I'm going to separate this video into 3 segments: story, character, and the other Spider-Men. Story.
Remember, with great power comes great responsibility.
Okay, so Tom Holland's story is just not close to the comic books, like, at all? Tom Holland never has his Uncle Ben moment. Tony Stark essentially replaces Uncle Ben in terms of importance. We haven't even gotten a reference to the most essential plot device to the character of Spider-Man, like, at all. Now, I don't entirely blame the MCU for this, though. This was the 3rd reboot of the franchise, pretty closely following the last. A retread of the story could have gotten old really fast. I mean, just look at Batman vs. Superman.
Kill Martha!
But moving on from that, there are just so many important elements to his story that are just left out entirely. Gwen Stacy, Mary Jane just do not exist in this story. I know MJ does exist, but it's literally a totally different character. This is not Mary Jane, it's just someone who happens to be named MJ, which I'm totally fine with because it's Zendaya, and Zendaya is the most perfect human being alive and can do no wrong in my eyes. But, like, that's not the only thing. Why is this Ned? Seriously, why is Ned here? Ned in the comics is literally a reporter for the Daily Bugle. Why is this not Harry Osborn? I mean, don't get me wrong, I think this guy is funny, and I like the character, but there's literally no reason for this guy not to be named Harry Osborn. MCU. WTF. Speaking of which, where is the Daily Bugle? Okay, I know JJ shows up in Far From Home, but he pretty much has no relation to Spider-Man at all other than revealing his identity. Which, yeah, I know that was a big twist that no one saw coming, but literally that ruins an entire huge part of Spider-Man's central story, the double life. MCU, what are you doing? Also, Aunt May. Do I need to say more? Do you get my point yet? Yeah, the story's been interesting, but it's far and away the least accurate to the comic book Spider-Man we have yet. Now, a lot of people have said they're more closely following the Ultimate Spider-Man storyline with this character, and I feel like a lot of people are just using that as an excuse without having actually, read any of those stories. If you look at the Ultimate storyline, it is essentially identical to that of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. Character.
It gets kind of itchy. It rides up in the crotch a little bit, too.
Okay, this idea that Tom Holland is the most perfect representation of what Peter Parker and Spider-Man are, you just have no idea what you're talking about. Tom Holland's Spider-Man is a young, unsure kid who makes pop culture references and follows in the footsteps of the Avengers.
Hey guys, you ever seen that really old movie? Empire Strikes Back?
Jesus, Tony, how old is this guy?
I don't know, I didn't carbon date him, he's on the young side.
The comic book Spider-Man is a wisecracking a-hole who works almost entirely alone.
Heads up! Hey, where you going? Catch! I'll clear a path.
Like, the reason he isn't considered a main Avenger is not because he's a young kid. It's because the Avengers just hate working with him. He's kind of a jerk.
Just let me go.
Is that a knife? Is that a real knife?
Yes, it's a real knife.
My weakness, it's small knives.
Just let me go.
Anything but knives!
Oh, it's so simple. That was cool, man.
What the hell is this?
Webbing that I developed myself. I don't think you really want to know.
Come
right
on, let me go.
One second.
Knock it off, man. No.
Also, this just might be my opinion, but Tom Holland does not portray the nerdy goofball that is Peter Parker very well. Yeah, he's an awkward teen, but a nerd? I don't know. Also, Peter Parker, when he gets older, kind of drops the whole nerd thing. That's not essential to his character. That was essential to him when he was younger because he was young. But as he gets older, that's not really a thing anymore. The MCU turned the wisecracking solo hero into Iron Man's Robin.
Holy rusted metal, Batman! Huh? You're grown, it's all metal, it's full of holes, you know? Holy!
Oh. Nice job, kid.
Thanks. Well, I could have stuck the landing a little better. It's just a new suit. Wait, it's nothing. Mr. Stark, it's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, we don't really need to start a conversation.
Okay. Captain? Big fan of Spider-Man?
Yeah, we'll talk about it later. Just...
Hey, everyone.
Good job.
As I've said though, I don't really mind this. I think it's really well written, and it tugs at your heartstrings more so than the Uncle Ben story arc really ever could because of how it was built up over multiple movies. Except I have a major issue with this. If Spidey has access to all of Iron Man's tech, why does he not build flight into his suit? This is a serious problem. Why have all of this but not put something that useful in? I mean, I feel like that would have been pretty useful against Mysterio. Hey, Petey? Other Spider-Men.
You think you're the only people who've got to come here?
Okay, I debunked earlier in this video that this version of Spidey follows the Ultimate storyline and how that most closely resembles Tobey Maguire's character. But hey, let's check in with the original Peter Parker, Earth 616. While Peter was still an infant, his parents were assigned by the CIA. Peter failed to stop an escaping thief, later to find Uncle Ben murdered. He would later date Gwen Stacy, who would get kidnapped by the Green Goblin and was killed when he dropped her and Spider-Man's web caused her to break her neck. Okay, this is literally The Amazing Spider-Man. I mean, don't get me wrong, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is not a good movie. It has many, and I mean many, issues in terms of narrative storytelling. The original Spider-Man movies have a lot of goofy moments. I just find it odd how often I see complaints about these movies not following the comics when they have done a much better job than the MCU version. So the question is, if I don't think Tom Holland is a good Peter Parker, is there something I think he is good at? And the answer to that is yes. He is an amazing live-action portrayal of Miles Morales. Let me read some of the character traits of Miles. He's a very principled and awkward adolescent. He's constantly trying to prove himself because of his young age. He follows the lead of an older role model superhero to teach him. He would eventually lose this role model and take up the mantle in his own way. So for those who saw Spider-Verse and said, hey, I want a live-action version of this, well, we already got it, and we didn't even know it. Hey, if you liked the video, please go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, do all those things that help a smaller YouTuber like myself grow. Please, I'm begging, I need the subscribers. This quarantine is killing me, and I have nothing better to do with my time than make YouTube videos.